Good morning. Today is March 10th, 2020. This is Clear Passage Prayer Line. The title of the message today is Let God Build It. Let God build it. And the scripture, one of the scriptures says, unless the Lord builds a house, they that labor in vain. So today, when I was telling you, I was writing these notes down, that's when he said about the tithers. Now, what's the big deal? What's the big deal about it? There's something in the sowing and the consecration, and there's something in the covenant. And I am learning, because I've never been big on talking about it, but God's pushing it. And the reason he's pushing it is because he's personally telling individuals, has nothing to do. Don't look at the person. He's got the blessing. Just like he tested Abraham, he wants to see what you're going to do. And he's going to match you. He's going to the degree you go in with him. That's the degree he's going to go in with you. He is without limits. He is not limited to an amount and a number or anything. He's paying attention. We are moving into a greater level of consecration. So that's what this is. So, and I had no idea I was going to say it until he dried, and I wasn't going to say it, but then I'm not going to miss my blessing and be disobedient. So I'm going to, whatever he says for me to say, trust me, whether you like, I will say it. I will get it. It'll leave my mouth onto your ears. What you do with it is on you. However, he is moving us up to another level, and that's why he's asking to, just like a covenant, just like you go in, he's asking, come up higher. If you wanted secret places. Just like, when you have a distillery where they make some type of wine or liquor or anything like that, you have the audience version, which everybody, the retail version, which everybody can come into the restaurant or into the store and buy the retail version. And then he's got a special edition. And then he's got that secret place where it's only a very elite go into that place. That's what's happening now. The elite. If you want to be on the storefront, that's fine. Then there's a secret place, and there's an outer court, an inner court, and then there's a holy of holies. You can see he does separate out on the anointing. That's what he's doing. And he's real clear about it because he brings it up, and that's why I'm letting you guys know. So pay attention. It's your blessing. Now he says, if God doesn't build a house, build it, forget about it. Hidden foundations. You have to trust God to build that. Now, what's the hidden foundation? The hidden foundation. What happened with Daniel? It's what happened when David was sitting there talking to the Lord and writing psalms and praising God. There was an exchange, just like we are spending time. If you notice, we've been spending time in the presence of God, sowing into his word, listening and praising him and talking to him every day. David got the instruction. I said this yesterday or day before. David got the instruction for the temple. So, and it wasn't until recently that I realized it was a two-way exchange. David was praising God, talking to God, spending time with God, doing the one-on-one conversation with God, which is what Gloria was talking about. David was supping with the Lord, talking to him, praising him. He started acquiring. David had he and Solomon did the most extraordinary thing outside of Jesus coming. He did the most extraordinary thing because he got the ability to contribute to the house of God. God gave him instruction, and then he handed it over to Solomon, and that's how the first temple was built. Major thing, because God doesn't let everybody touch his stuff. Okay, I just said it. He doesn't let everybody touch his stuff. And he's not going to have unclean hands. We've been talking about clean hands. He's not. That's why he said he separated them out. That is an honor, and it's a category. Being a tither is a category. So he's separating it out. Who's going to touch his word? Because he's getting ready to go to the next level. So he didn't say it's a point of consecration. It's nothing. It has we don't God. You can't hold God's blessing back, but it's a point of personally you stepping into, just like you're getting ready to go into a wedding ceremony, into a banquet, into college, into a university. You're getting ready to go into another realm. When you go to Harvard, if you go to Stanford, any place you go, they have to admit you, and then you give them the fees, but you are entering into an agreement with them to come up into the next realm. And so that is why he does that, because Solomon, when Solomon got the instruction for the temple, that's when he was sacrificing the bulls. And he did it in the presence of every time Abraham, God bless, he would go and build an altar and make an offering unto the Lord. God is looking to, because you can't match him giving, but he wants to make sure he's got your heart. And he says that where man's treasure is, that's where his heart is. And so that's why he asked Abraham for Isaac. He didn't have to actually sacrifice Isaac, but he wanted to see if he would do it. And so he does try you. He does put you to it and ask you, yes. And he does put it to you and ask you, and he gives it to you. So when David was praising God and talking to God and communing with God, God found favor in that and said, And then not only that, David couldn't build the temple because he did want to. But he provided his son with all that he would need to give unto the Lord. And so that lets me know he had a blueprint. He had the dimensions, which he did. He had and he had to spend time with this. He had the dimensions. He had the weight of the goblets. He knew how much gold was going to go there, how much was going to go here. God laid it out, and the inside of the Holy of Holies was lined with gold. So imagine standing in a place that's lined with gold, and then there's incense burning, and there's a candlelight. So the candlelight is jumping all off the ceiling and all on the side. It must have been spectacular. God is a designer. He is a planner. Just like he planned his temple, he's going to plan your life. He will plan out your life to where your steps are ordered, and you don't even know what he's going to do. If you try to do it under your own this and that and doing your own thing, that's one thing. But God has to build the house. That's why today, and that is not a coincidence, the title of the message is Let God Build It. And he's talking about tithes and offerings. Pivotal point, life-changing experience. Let God do it. He's taking you in deeper because he's talking. You can be a storekeeper every day for up until all the days up until today, and moving from today forward, God can intervene and say, okay, now come here, come up. Just like Paul was about doing an aggressive work, trying to kill saints, kill Christians, up until he had that encounter. Some godly encounters are something that God ordains, and they come from nowhere. You don't know that they're going to happen. Just like Jesus was walking along and called Peter, called Andrew, called Matthew, called Mark. He called them, but they didn't know. They were doing their regular day-to-day activity, and he walked up on them and said, "Okay, follow me." And they dropped what they were doing, and some people didn't, and they missed it, but some people did. That's how we're talking about the qualifier. You do not know what God is doing. Just know that hidden foundations. What does that mean? That means that before thing, and this is very important, the part that you're doing is the smallest part. The stepping in, what is he telling you, to make a phone call, to write the plan, to do this or do that, whatever he's taking you to, the part you're doing is a small part. Just like in a car, you push the gas or you push the brake or you turn the steering wheel. You're telling the engine, you're working in cooperation with the mechanics of the car, but you by no means are doing the greater part of the work. But when you push that gas, you're just putting your foot on the gas. There's a whole engine that's being initiated by you putting your foot on the gas. Same thing with speaking this word into the earth environment. You're pushing, you're creating the momentum, but you're not doing the work. So the car is a great example. Pushing your foot on the gas is just most you're doing is exerting energy in your leg and your foot. and holding the steering wheel. But in no way are you getting that car to go with what's in the engine. You're cooperating with the mechanics of the car. The same thing, you're cooperating with the instruction of God. He says, then, if then. And this is the first time I have really been learning and understanding what he means and what he's doing. I literally this morning when I was praying, there was a room packed with gold, different shapes and sizes of stuff that was in there, packed to the point it was right up to the edge of the door. It was just enough room to contain it and to close the door, but there was everything from floor to ceiling. Couldn't describe it. Packed gifts. Then so in the process when we were seeing that and he was talking, he's going to release. God releases seasons of blessings. I do not know what each individually what you guys are doing in your lives. I'm not all at your house. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that listen and pay attention. Is there a season? Is there something that's going to shift? Is there something where he could take you from point A to point B, from this level to the next level? Are you seeking for God to do something, asking him to design something, to create something, to step into a plan and participate? I don't know if you are or not. Do you know if you are or you're not? This is what he's talking about. He is cutting a covenant with you. What is that thing? You're asking him. That's what he's doing right now. So when we talk about the hidden foundations, he says, eyes have not seen nor ears have heard, neither has it entered into the thoughts. There are sometimes God blesses you, you can't even verbalize it. And it's not what it is when you realize he heard you from the first time you whispered a thing or you said a thing, and then he leads and guides and directs you to the thing, and you see it. And only God can do some of the things he's getting ready to do. People can't do this kind of blessing. People can't put things in place and put I can't even tell you all that he's done, but people can't put things in place where yesterday. Oh, just like those it was and I don't know exactly the scripture, but there was a town that was starving, and then the prophet said by days end you'll be able to buy a loaf of bread for a penny. There was so much blessing. Well, what happened was there were lepers that were outside the city, and the lepers said, we're going to die anyway. Let's just walk down into this camp and let's go ask them for some food. We're going to die anyway, so it didn't matter. So all this was happening behind the scenes. The prophet was standing in the place and speaking that out, which just sounded ridiculous because they didn't know what was going on. Just like you don't know what God is doing. You only know the little bitty piece that you can see with your eyeballs or that you can control from your perspective. Just like that, the gas pedal on a car. You could only control that little part. You have no idea how it works. You have no idea what's happening on the outside. So these lepers walk into this other village. I don't know, remember the name of it. And God magnified the sound of their feet, where it sounded like a whole army of people were coming. And the people that were in the camp got afraid and ran off and left everything, left food, clothing, um, resources, water, left everything. And that's how the lepers found that resource. And true enough, by the end of the day, you could buy a loaf of bread for a penny. Where there was another, they didn't call it a penny. It was a denomination that was our equivalent of a penny. But what he was saying was, see how that worked. God, you don't know how God does math in your life. You don't know how he brings connections, brings people. He's been telling you to get your stuff ready because he's trying to bless you. Get your stuff ready. Get it ready, get your containers ready. And some of you have still not done it. He done told some of you to write the vision and make it plain. He done told some of you to prepare and get your affairs in order. Prepare to receive. Prepare to receive. If you are in the business of receiving, then you will be, if you're in the business of receiving, then you have zip containers in your life where you are able to receive it. You start having that priestly conversation. You start being able to when I say priestly conversation, I'm talking about your regalia. You're able to receive. You can conceptualize at a kingdom level. You start thinking see, it's one thing to think about feeding your family and keeping your house in order, you and just your family. It's another thing to think about to provide for a whole community. It's another thing to provide for a whole community and make decisions that affect millions of people or several people or groups of people. Your brain changes because you have to think differently. You have to think like a steward. And Solomon was able to give that level because his father was king and then he was king. So he was able to sacrifice 1,000 bulls because he had it to do. Just like God is trying to get it through you so you have it to do. How is it going to enter into the earth realm if it doesn't pass through the children of God? If he doesn't give you the vision and the resources. David gave Solomon the vision written on paper, made plain, and the resources together. And Solomon took it and ran with it. What is he trying to get you to do? He's trying to get you off of your plan onto his. He's partnering. He's bringing you in closer. And God communes with his own folks. He is not going to leave his inner circle and go out and pull. Now, he has done it because everybody was hard-headed, but he's not going to, for the most part, he had Abraham, he had David, he had Solomon, he had Daniel, he had Joshua, he had some winners. He had some people that was going to show up and do what God asked them to do. And they are counted blessed. And the same thing, yesterday, he's the same God, yesterday, today, and forever. He changes not. The same way he pulled them in and started speaking to them one-on-one. That thing Gloria said was very profound. Spend time with God, and he brings you in close. David and God was on a one-on-one. No, despite whatever David had done, he and God were on a one-on-one. Daniel and God were on a one-on-one. Many of them one-on-one relationship. Who can I send? Can I send you? Can I tell you what to do? Can I give it? Can I give you Can I give you this information? Can I trust you with this instruction? God could trust David with the instruction for the temple and the resources to do it. And he made a big ceremony about it and proclaimed it into the land and then handed it to Solomon and said, this is what God was doing. This is the instruction to the letter. Solomon took that, and Solomon built God's house before he built his own to make sure that he got blessed. And as he did that thing, Solomon solidified himself in the archives of men of God. Even though he made mistakes and became disobedient further down the road. But at the time, he was standing in consecration, standing in a place of a blessing, and did that thing, built the temple, and then he built his own house. It's a great honor. If God calls you to do something, you're not going to outdo him. So we have been talking this whole time. What did God call you to do? What did he ask you to do? That's what we've been talking about. Because if he asks you to do it, he'll provide for it to be done. But you also will get the honor of the flow of that blessing for the perpetuation of your life, your generation, and the generations to come. You can build a building, but let God build. Let God do it. Scrap your plans, because your plans are based on your understanding. Let God take you to that place and build something phenomenal through you. We've been talking about this the whole time. What is God calling you to do? What he's asking you to do, and what he's calling you to do, you only have a little bitty piece. He got the bigger part of it. He's got the other part. When he's talking to you and when he's moving forward, he's going to do the whole thing. He's just going to tell you, okay, you stand here. Here's your crayons. You sit over there and do your part. This is what I want you to do. He'll go behind the scenes, heavy lifting, time, place, location, direction, getting you where you're supposed to be, telling you what you're supposed to say, moving things along. It's him. He will do all of that. He'll get all the glory. He'll get all the phenomenal things, that the bringing together to where your jaw will drop. You go like, oh, I didn't even know God could do that. What is he doing? It's an amazing blessing. So, but he will not reveal it till he tests you. And he will test you. Before he gave Abraham and he moved on Abraham, he tested him with Isaac, all that he had. And once Abraham was willing to do that thing, that's how Jesus got here, because Abraham was willing to step up with Isaac. And he said, now I know you won't withhold any. See, he tested him. Now I know. So when you're at a moment where God has you in a moment, have you been tested where he says, now I know, because I required a thing of you and I saw that you did it. Because you're not dealing with man, human to human. God is going to say to you, has he done something? Have you participated in an interaction where you've put all on the line for him? And he goes, now I know that I can trust you with this, this, and this. Now I know. Because trust me, some people he has given them information and given them instruction, and at the last minute they were tested and failed the test because they could not, whatever it was. And there's some other ones. Judas Iscariot failed the test. Ananias and his wife failed the test. They got caught up in being with the cares of this world and missed it. So he trust me, he will test. He says, try the spirits to see if they be of God. And every vessel that is going to be used, he will test you with fire. He will test you with requirements. And it's because he wants to know if you and him are on the same page. If you have it, he knows he could know if you're going to do it, but he will test you. And then he will ask you. And that's where because it will, if you do what he asks you, blessing. If you don't do it, you won't know what you miss. You might see somebody else doing it, going down the street with it, but you won't know what you missed. You just missed it. You like he did Moses. He took him up to the hill, and he called him up and he said, this is what the promised land looks like, but you ain't going in it. This is what it looks like. He showed it to him, but he didn't go in. God is a parent. He is a parent. Salvation is free, but after you get in there, there's a whole bunch of stuff that God can do with your life, depending on the degree by which you consecrate and set yourself. Are you on the outer court? Are you on the inner court? Are you in the Holy of Holies? And when he gets ready to go up, just like he thinned out the people for Gideon, because they would have took credit. If they had done it under their own strength, they would have took the glory and the credit. But God will always put you out in a situation where you have to depend on him to do it. You're dependent on God to do it. He will put you in a position where, okay, Lord, they're here. This is yours. Now I have to listen to you. Now I have to be dependent on you. And then you'll be right there. And he'll show up. And then you're bonding and you're understanding. Interdependent, not independent of God, interdependent on God. You are more dependent on him in a conversation, in a back and forth. We're getting ready to read these scriptures, and these scriptures are prayer and they are praise. We're talking, amazingly enough, we've been talking about David. And to the degree when you listen to these scriptures, you will understand how well David knew God. Think about how well David knew him personally, in conversations, in one-on-one experiences. He could refer back to him. And there's people, and you've probably all had the situation too, where something tragic is happening, or something very big and jarring in your life, shaking in your life is happening. And while you don't know how, when, and where, you have one resolve, I trust God. Because you have such a relationship, you can say, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I trust him. I just trust him. And there's places you can get in your walk that you can just say, I just trust him. I cannot. What are you going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do, but I trust him. What are you going to do about your house? What are you going to do about this? They're talking about tornadoes. They're talking about all this, everything. I trust God. I trust him to restore, to revive. I trust him to replenish, to bring back everything that was lost, pressed down, shaken together, running over. I trust him. I trust the people are stepping in. I trust him. And God will come and overshadow that thing and surely put it back together. revisit, restore whatever was gone or taken or moved or whatever happened. He will put it back. He knows all of your business. He knows what's going on with you. He knows the details. He knows everything. Just and then some. You don't know yourself the details, but you can just resolve. I trust God. That's what it gets down to. Do you trust Him? That's the question.